So today I'm going to be rating the classes of Mewgenics from S to D, and I currently have around 50 hours, and I am going to cover all classes besides the monk, which is Act 3. So halfway through, I'll give a warning of the Act 2 classes that you unlock. So as to avoid spoilers, start with the fighter. It's solid, but honestly, it doesn't really have much going for it, and it's not very experimental. It is a solid damage dealing class, but the combos are not really there, so probably about B tier. And the exact opposite, being the hunter, being very experimental and kind of hard to build, but easy to pilot. I would probably put this around, because you need range later into the game, especially like in the sewers and things of that nature, like Boneyard. I believe that this is probably A tier because the combos you can make are insane. The Mage is just not. Like, it's hard to build, hard to pilot. It's kind of just bad. Like, it doesn't really have much going for it. It can be good in the desert if you can get water spells, but if you don't get water spells, you're kind of screwed. So I'm gonna go C. The tank. Easy to pilot, easy to build. It has a broken summoning build with rocks. It's tanky. It can be used, like all stats can be used on it. It's probably S. As for the cleric, it is needed for the desert a lot of the time, especially if you're like just getting to the desert, or if you are going to the boneyard and you don't feel confident in like surviving throughout levels and taking less damage. It is easy to pilot but harder to build. Probably like A tier because it doesn't have insane combos, but it is a pretty solid class. The thief, because of how the luck stat works and it giving you extra items basically per floor, it gives a lot of potential, and just like even it just being around, not even really doing much in fights, it's really good. But it also has very broken defensive and offensive capabilities because it can get basically across the map in like 2 moves and can one-shot like a lot of the enemies in the game with some of the passes that it gets. But like even if it doesn't do well and it's like not that great, even it just being around gives you extra items, so probably yes. Now this is the very last class of Act 1 that you unlock. It is the Necromancer. It has to be like the most broken class in the entire game because not only can it heal itself, it just stacks with its like basic attacks on the boss and just leech over and over and over again. And it's not many bosses in the game cleanse it. Honestly, you don't even need passives or anything, you just need the basic auto attack and some HP. But the passives on it are also like, the passives and the abilities are also just like insane. There's ones that like give you more leech, there's ones that like you sacrifice half your HP to do a bunch of damage. This class needs to be fixed. It like its base level of like just value, even if you have no stats in anything, its base value is just absolutely insane. This has to be my favorite class by far. And it like, you could probably do solo runs of this class. It definitely has. Now I'm going to talk about the Act 2 classes, so just fair warning, if you have not been to Act 2 and you have not gone through the entire desert, please save yourself and do not spoil the classes for yourself. Now, starting with the Act 2 classes. The Tinkerer. You unlock this by completing the bunker, which is definitely a hard area, but the thing about the bunker is there's a bunch of robots and like flesh monsters. That's like mainly what this class is about. But the different kinds of builds, like the insane crafting builds, like there's a bomb build where you can just build bombs that do like 10 damage and you can build like almost 2 a turn. And then there's like another tech build where you just like stack up tech and then make weapons like guns, etc. But the baseline of this class is super bad because it not only does it bring your luck down, but it's just like not like you can get some bad rolls, you can get some terrible rolls, but it's high, like it's high highs. It's sure it's not extremely consistent, and it's also extremely hard to pilot. It is very hard to play. It is probably like the hardest class to play in the entire game. Honestly, I would go A just because it's hard to use. But if people who are really good at this class could probably like win every single run, because that's how like powerful its high highs are. But it very much does need support in the early game. Like especially if you get unlucky. Okay, as for the second class that you unlock, well technically it's first, second. The crater and the bunker are like the same like level of area. It's like the second area of Act 2. You unlock this by going to the crater and beating the crater, and oh my, the fire music in the crater. Okay, anyway. This is like, there's 2 builds to this. One is like a summon build where you just spam summon over and over and like, you know, you turn into like an elk or whatever, or like shapeshift. But honestly, the baseline of this class, just because 1, it gives luck, 2, it can survive in longer fights because of how many summons it can get out, and it gives damage boosts to your other characters and heals them. And there's also like, there's certain broken builds that like you can literally make you and all of your allies basically invincible and doing like 10-20 damage a hit. I've only gotten to that point like once, and it was at the very end of a run. But as far as like baseline value, probably put it in A, because it's definitely better than the fighter, and it's kind of better than the cleric too, just because it has its own like way to damage things, and you can really make some like good builds. Like all of its abilities synergize with each other regardless of what you're getting. Honestly, it's probably the top of A tier. Okay, the Butcher. This is an insanely, I would say, easy class to pilot. You unlock this by going to the core in Act 2 and fighting, I'm not gonna mention who, but it's probably the easiest boss fight in the game. Because of how little health it has. Other than the rat, of course. But it is definitely the easiest boss fight of Act 2. This class is really unique, but also really simple. It's like a tank fighter. It's a mix of the both, but it also is like damaging itself. It's basically like a barbarian, pretty much. Picking up food pickups and all that. The builds on this class, like the top tier of builds, not great, but the baseline value of the class is kind of insane. It's similar to the fighter in a way. And also fighting from corners, like, because it can hit diagonally. It can avoid a lot of attacks, but eventually you're going to learn that over time with all the different enemies, which by this point you've probably learned what the enemies do. I would say probably high B, low A. So, honestly, I'm just gonna throw it in high B. Definitely better than the fighter, but definitely worse than the tinker and the cleric. And it doesn't have like all the experimental like high like synergy builds of the hunter. It kind of like all of its abilities have really no synergy, but it just does a high base damage. It's basically like a stat ball. As for the psychic, usually the last class that you unlock, because you go to the core usually before you go to the moon, because I mean, this is just the worst class in the game. Like, I know there's probably some highs, and there's probably some people who can do some, like, insane stuff with it, but it just doesn't do damage, it doesn't support, it doesn't really do anything, and it's based off the environment, which means that if you're in a boss fight, it's completely and utterly useless. I haven't had like, as much time with this class as every other class, but it definitely has literally nothing going for it based off the abilities that I've seen and some of the abilities that I've seen like other people use. It's not good. It really isn't. It makes your other characters kind of shine because of how bad it is, but yeah, no, it's not that great. Now that is it for the classes I'm going to be covering, because I have not unlocked the Monk yet, and I have not unlocked the Jester, but from what I've heard, the Jester is just every class mixed into one, and the Monk is a 2-hit, like, is range and melee. I'm going to be uploading all of my old runs, new runs, etc., and I'm probably going to be doing class guides for every single class here. I don't feel confident in, like, doing the Psychic as a class, or the Monk, because I've spent the least time with either of those classes. But yeah, stay tuned.